We're recording.
All right, man. All right, everybody. Welcome to Managing Your Property Manager. And we're going to just jump right into breakout rooms, and that'll be like our icebreaker. So Molly's going to divide us into 2 rooms, and we're going to answer some questions, and we're going to come back and share. So see you in a minute.
Okay. Breakout room 2, gotta join.
Okay, so do
Yep,
hit
you have to
join?
click join. Sorry, I
Oh,
should
yeah.
have made it automatic, but you do have to click join.
Okay, so we didn't get video recording for much of the for the workshop. What happened is the video automatically stops recording if you go to a breakout group, and we didn't realize that and turn the recording back on later. So what I'm going to do now is share what we did in the meeting, in the workshop. We broke out into different rooms and talked about if we've ever been reviewed by our bosses and what was useful and what was not useful about that process. So I'm going to share the results there, if I can find the show all windows. Excuse me. Okay, so this is people came back with this and shared that it's important when they were being reviewed that they received documentation ahead of time. You know, are there categories, a checklist of things you're going to be reviewed, and given a heads up about what the format for the review is, and what is the responsibility of the employees, and then having dialogue and concrete examples of goals, growth, and improvement are identified, and if there's stuff that the employee didn't do right, then wanted concrete examples of exactly that. And validation for what we're doing is really important. And it's also good to start with the positive. So knowing if we're doing a good job or not helps us be more independent, increases our confidence if it's done constructively, and we don't feel judged, right? But it's always good to start with that, and it's helpful to hear how we can get better at this. But sometimes, you know, we're just getting ongoing daily feedback from our bosses. And then also, it's people liked to be asked their opinions about how to improve the workplace, and checklists are good. What was not helpful was going off course and diving into minutia. So that is what people shared for their for the breakout. Now, it's particularly instructive, and we reflected that if we're going to do reviews of property management, we have everything we need to do that, because most of us have been reviewed at any given board table. You've got people have been reviewed and have strong opinions about what works and what doesn't in that process. So you already know how to do it. The other thing that we did was a poll. So we answered a bunch of questions about working with the property manager, and got different responses. People got to see where they were in relation to other boards around the state. So this was the poll. I'm gonna launch this. Okay, so the first question was, does your board review your property manager on a regular basis? And the other overwhelming majority of people, boards around the state, don't review the property manager on a regular basis. Has your board used a matrix to divide up responsibilities with your property management company? So a matrix is, you know, a grid, a spreadsheet with rows and columns with who is responsible, Pathstone property manager or the board for, you know, a host of different things. And again, vast majority of people responded that their boards do not do that. Has your board set policies and procedures for rules violations notices? Again, most boards have not put this in place yet in New York. Which of these things does your property manager report on at the monthly meeting? So everybody said they got finance reports, rules violations reports was hit and miss. Vendor bids also hit and miss. Maintenance, it's set up different at different communities, and new resident applications also hit and miss. So, but these are all areas that you need to decide whether this is something that you or your property manager will do at your monthly meeting, and you have a right to, you know, and it could cost you more money, but you have a right to, you know, delegate these things. Does your board have one or two people designated as the people to talk to property management? So again, different boards had different answers for that, but these are definitely things that you should be thinking about. Okay. The next section that we did was just 5 minutes of me doing a PowerPoint about best practices. All right. So these are ideas for how you can give your manager, property manager. There's good, better, best. And I don't expect everybody to adopt all of this, but it's important. I'm going to encourage everybody to stretch themselves and think about which of these practices they want to bring to the board to start taking on. So I believe that all the boards have given their property managers bylaws, rules, and policy, well, bylaws and rules. If you haven't, it's absolutely critical that you do this. You can't hold your property manager accountable for following the bylaws and the rules if they don't have a set. The other area is policies and procedures. So for instance, has the board passed policies about community rules enforcement? I mean, literally have a piece of paper with how you do policy and how you do community rules enforcement notification. And so policies are the place where the board communicates the how things should be done to the property management. And the other thing is to have a regular review of the property manager. And this is a spreadsheet that I can give to any, you know, I can pass this along to you guys if you want it. And it's a starting place. You can modify this, or you can just adopt it whole cloth. And, you know, it goes over the various aspects of the work. And here's 4 categories of what a property manager does. And it lists those things, and you can give them feedback on a scale of 1 to 5, et cetera, and then discuss, give examples. But absolutely critical to sit down on a regular basis, whether it's quarterly or annually, and then to think about where in your regular schedule do you want to place this? Is it before your budgeting? Is it after the annual meeting? But decide when in the calendar, and so it's automatic every year. And the other thing is that you don't want to have too many people responsible for contacting the property manager, or everybody just spamming the property manager. You need to assign 1 or 2 board members the role of being the liaison to the property manager. If you've ever seen 5-year-olds play soccer, they just swarm around the ball and it's chaos and it's no good. 1 or 2 people responsible for communicating to the property manager. If they get messages from the property manager, it's really important for your assigned board members to get back to them really fast, within 24 hours, whether it's an email or a phone call. And then in addition, what we know now about how people do email is it's much better to send one email with a bullet list of things that you want to talk to them and give them feedback back or ask them to do. So one email with a bullet list of this thing, that thing, and the other thing, as opposed to 3 emails. You don't want to do an email about this thing, another email about that thing, and a third email about the other thing. Put them together into one email. And then also it's important to give positive reinforcement. What we know about reinforcement is that we do better when you scratch our ears and give us treats. And I want to emphasize that it's important to be specific about your positive reinforcement. So you want to let them know, really appreciate you were able to give us 3 bids within 6 weeks, or that was great. That thank you for getting the finance report to us the Friday before our meeting the following week. So specific feedback that lets them know precisely what it is you like about what they're doing and how they're doing it, and that lets them know how to make you happy. So in review, make sure your property manager has the copies of rules, bylaws, and policies. If you don't have policies in place, you need to put them on the board agenda for discussion at future board meetings. You need to schedule regular reviews of your property manager. I can't emphasize this enough. And like I said, maybe tie it to other regular items so that it's always going to pop up and it doesn't get lost in the sauce. Designate 1 or 2 people as the board reps to communicate with your property manager. The board reps need to respond to emails from property management within 24 hours. And those people who are in communication with property managers should be doing best email practices of bulleting points rather than a bunch of different emails. And don't forget, intermittent positive feedback is a wonderful thing. Okay, so that was the fast PowerPoint. And then finally, we did a round of who you're going to call. And we've got footage of that. But in this is basically an activity where everybody's got 3 pieces of paper. One says Pathstone, one says the board, and one says property management. And we read off some scenarios and people respond with their answers for who should be called, which one of those 3 entities should be called for an answer. And then people are asked to call on each other to defend why they gave their answer. So that's the game, and here's the footage. It's a procurement positive. I think 2 or 3 rocks do.
Most people are supposed to have them. That's for most people, that's
them.
in your required 3. That's
Oh,
it's
it
in
is?
required 3.
Yep.
It is the required, I take it back. Okay, all right. How do you find out how many bids have been obtained so far? Who do you call?
By the president
Okay, so that's the board.
and the board.
I think it depends, because in our case, the property manager does that, but we want to get the ops manager positioned back on our board, so the ops manager can do that. So I think there are 2 possibilities.
Yeah, I'm seeing
Yes,
So-
with us, our property manager gets all of the estimates, and then when she gets the 3 estimates, she'll bring them to the board. And then we decide on which one we feel is the best.
And do you share that with all your board employees and what the bids were and who they're from?
Does anybody do it differently? Angela?
In our community, the operations manager collects the 3 bids, brings it to the board, and then the board selects the company that they elect to work with based on the bids. And then we share that with the property management company.
Currently, our property management company is doing all of that, but we want to get control of it back in the board, back
And-
on to the board, so.
And there's no
Right.
right answer on this.
If
But
I
you do
could-
need
if I
to be
could add
clear.
EVs, if I could add to EVs, I firmly believe they don't get any bids. They just go to who they want
Hmm.
and hire
Right.
them.
So,
Yep.
so then it's the
I mean, I
board's
didn't even know who the
responsibility.
electrician we were using for all the electrical work they've done until today. Literally today, and
So
only
you-
because I found them working somewhere.
And you're within your rights at every board meeting to be asking for the bids, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, and you could be pointing to your policy, right? So,
Well, I
um,
just recently gave them a copy of the procurement policy.
Good.
right, cool, cool, cool. All right, let's keep going. It has snowed 6 inches and the plow has not come yet. Who do you call?
Property manager.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm seeing also the board.
I would call the board, I think.
Yeah,
I would call board.
yeah.
Operations.
Gloria, why don't you call on somebody and ask them to defend their answer?
Oh, I don't know. I can't see.
Oh, you can't see the names?
I don't know who answered.
No, ask anybody to say their answer.
Ellen,
I would call the board, I would call our operations manager.
yeah,
And I think that's what I would do, is call the operations manager, who should know the people who do the plowing.
Okay,
That's
Ellen,
fine.
tag somebody else to justify their answer.
Okay, hold on. I gotta see who's here. Angela.
You're muted. Angela's muted.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute. It wasn't working. Lord knows that's not usually a problem for me. I would call myself as the operations manager. That's my responsibility within the community. If a lawn wasn't mowed, if the plowing wasn't done, I am the interface between the contractor typically and the community. If the problem escalates to another level, then we involve the property manager. But
Right.
if it's an initial query or call, it comes to me first.
I have a
Alright.
question. Who's right in this case here? Going to the board, going to the management company, you know?
So what is right here, Carol, is that everybody knows what the decision is. So there's no right answer for this situation. It could be the board, it could be well, it wouldn't be passed down.
Right.
But no matter what you decide, operations or property manager, the important thing is that everybody agrees with what the answer is, because the thing you don't want is people pointing fingers at each other. I thought it was your job. I thought it was your job. How come you didn't do it? So that's what this is all about.
Well,
Right, and
I feel to contact the board, and then the board can contact the management company.
Margie is disagreeing with you.
No?
I just think that Tiffany is she's getting paid for this to do it. And sometimes you can't reach the people on the board, and the people who are trying to reach, say, if Dolores calls me, I'm not home now, she'll call somebody else, they're not home, they're gonna get angry. At least if they get the management company, there is a message that does go through to their voice,
Right.
to her phone. So
I
people
think
may
that's
get,
a really good point.
people may get angry as they have to keep calling people, and people, actually, that did happen once.
So
Tried to
it's
reach 3 of the board members, 4 of the board members couldn't reach them, so she kind of really blew up at
Doesn't it just depend on the structure of each independent community, John, and
Yeah.
what our community's policies and procedures are?
Exactly, but I want to point out that Carol and Margie are on the same board.
On the same board.
Yeah, and Carol didn't. So I want to ask, why isn't it that Carol,
Yeah.
you know, she should have been,
Because if people try to reach this and this and this, and they're going through the channel, if
right?
they reach her, now if she does not respond within an hour, by God, call me, you know what I'm saying? But she is usually reachable and gets back immediately, you know, if she's around.
So that's the Brittany Terrace arrangement. So then I would point out it's important for Brittany Terrace to do the orientation for the new board members so that they know and that everybody knows. Because it looks like it's possible that not everybody knows that at Brittany Terrace. I could be wrong. Okay, so that's the workshop. Basically, that's how to manage your property manager. This is being recorded. Everybody's got a packet. My hope for this session is that people are taking away a to-do list of things to work on with their boards. Like, oh, okay, we could be doing this thing. We could be doing this thing, and we could be doing this thing. So that, you know, it could be agenda items for your board to make some changes. So we've left 15 minutes or 10 minutes at the end for questions and any thoughts or feelings. So if you want to think about this or as head, hand, and heart, any takeaways, specific things that you want to do, and any feelings you have about that, or any thoughts you have about this workshop.
John, Angela just asked in the chat if you sent the matrices as Excel documents. How did you send them?
No, I will
Oh, you
email
will send them.
everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, so
great.
you got the pieces of paper that
Oh,
list them, and so you can see what they look like. And so, yeah.
Well, John, our challenge, and I don't know if anybody else shares this, is that we've not necessarily reviewed the management company, but talked with them multiple times about things, in particular rules enforcement, and we just don't ever seem to get anywhere with them. And if anyone has any thoughts about that, I'd appreciate hearing it. You know, it's difficult to get a new management company and get them up to speed, and then you can't be guaranteed they're going to be better than the old company. So how do we do this? What do we do?
Well, if I could add to that just quickly, our management company was not vetted or hired by the board.
That is absolutely true.
So anybody have any advice for EB and Mike about how to have good rules violation stuff happen in a good way with their property management? Alice?
We've had to have one-on-one meetings with our property manager just to go over things that have not worked out and try to find a solution. And sometimes it takes more than one meeting for them to understand what you're asking, but little by little, they're starting to learn. But you have
So-
Babysitting.
And yeah, so Venture Lake has had like, we need to talk meetings, 3 of
Oh,
them.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So everybody should know that's possible. You can have a we need to talk meeting.
We've had several of those.
Yeah, I've only been on one with you guys, but yeah. Anybody
John,
else?
what is Pathstone's role in serving as an intermediary between the board and the management group? Or is it an intermediary? Is it, you know, you said you've sat in on one of those meetings. What can you
Yeah,
walk
so
me through your
in
role?
both of these situations, I worked with the boards to come up with specific lists. And so with Alice and Gloria, we went over the contract and went through the contract. It's like, what is not being lived up to in this contract? And with Mike and EB, those guys were like, they brainstormed and like they came up with all the stuff and they shuffled them, and so that they all made sense. It was like, well, this is just a symptom of this other thing. So they tried to create priorities, but also sort them into large issues.
And so again, was Pat Stone the mediator
Faci-
in this
facil-
process?
Well,
Facilitator?
facilitated the brainstorming and then, and then convened the meeting, and then
Yeah.
kind of helped facilitate it.
Facilitated some of the discussion.
but-
Okay.
You mediated quite a bit though, too, John.
All right, thank you.
Not to correct you, but you guys were very instrumental in helping us get our point across and interjected when it didn't seem like either party was understanding the other. So,
Yeah, it helps sometimes to control the Zoom meeting share to bring it back to the list. Anybody else have any thoughts or feelings about this issue of managing your property manager?
Well, I got something. Our property manager, she does great on paying the bills and that kind of stuff. But the problem we're having is she don't know how to talk to people. I mean, I went to the New Hampshire schooling back when they had it. And my biggest thing was the anger management class that I took, because I'm a little bit of a hothead. And I learned how to talk to people instead of coming right out and start bitching at them, because what's the first thing they're going to do back? Start bitching back. Our
Mhm.
property manager calls them names and stuff, and they explode. So you can't really have that.
So does anybody have any advice for Dave about what might help in this situation to kind of train their property manager?
Well, we have or send out notices and we approve them. She sends them to us and we approve them first. So that then if the people want to have a meeting or they have questions, then we follow up with that.
So, and are you talking specifically about notice violations, Alice?
Any violations.
Yeah, I'm sorry, rules violations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay, any other advice for Dave? And Dave, this is exactly, I was thinking of Alice and Gloria. This is the system that they use they have the folder, right? So you can go through the folder. Anybody else have any advice for Dave about hot-headed, yelling property managers?
Send her to that anger management class.
Yeah, it helped for me.
So,
Yeah.
so also has the board told the property manager, has she been reviewed on this issue?
She's never been reviewed.
All right, so that's definitely one thing that could happen.
Right. I mean, I would think that's a key part of performance that you want to incorporate into whatever matrix you build to review your property manager. I think you want to take a look at those matrices that John sent us and say, okay, we need to start reviewing our property manager annually or every 6 months or however you want to set it up, and include those things and then talk through, okay, this is an area of concern or an area for growth. Here are places where we're really happy. Start with that and say, here are some areas where we feel growth is needed. How do you feel that can be accomplished?
How's that feel, Dave? Do you feel like you got some useful
Yeah,
thoughts?
I'll have to try it out, because right now, as it stands, she's chasing people out of here.
Yeah, that's not good.
Can I
Sometimes I
ask-
think they should have a workshop for property managers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should.
David, can I,
Especially co-ops, because most of the property managers think they know everything about co-ops, but they're talking about condominiums or
right,
apartments.
I was just gonna
something
say
like
something to that
Exactly.
effect, that our property manager does not seem to understand the concept of the co-op. And they don't seem to get that we want to be self-determined. and that they just can't do things the way they do them in every other place they manage.
So Molly, can you put it in a bike rack that it's occurring to me that Pathstone and Rock USA could be doing a better job of before we could be doing orientation. Do we ever do orientation with property managers to let them know the difference between an HOA and a co-op? Does that happen?
I know there's been discussion about it, but it's an interesting like triangulation, right? Because both Pathstone and the property manager have a contractual obligation to the board and a contractual relationship with the board, but Pathstone and the property manager actually don't have a contractual relationship. So it's an interesting dynamic, I guess I'll just say.
Well, how about this? What if, could it be that the Rock USA could offer training on how to do a training for your property manager?
Sure, they probably could do that. Yeah.
All right, so we got to
Yeah,
figure
you
that
could,
out.
so a training for the board, you mean?
Yeah, so the board can
On
then
how
do the training.
to-
Yeah.
yeah.
What's the difference? Like, you think you know what we are because you've done work with HOAs before, but hey, this is the difference between an HOA and a co-op.
Right.
Yeah, the co-op thing seems to be a blanket problem with property managers. They don't. I know ours, I'm fully convinced they don't get the concept of the way they want to run it like an apartment complex.
Well, and here's an example. Mike and I were there last week. We had a home we wanted to flip, and we had the opportunity to flip it immediately. And so we basically went in and said to Jim, this is what we want to do, and this is the paperwork we need, and stood there until he did it. And we flipped the home. Mike was responsible for this, really. I was just like kind of in on the process, but he arranged the whole thing. But it was a perfect solution to get the house off our books, to get someone who needed to move from one home to another within the community, to get an additional lot rent being paid, and to do it in a matter of days instead of months worth of lawyers and trying to get a title to the house and trying to collect the back lot rent. And because we came up with this creative solution, we were able to say, and go in and say, this is how we want to do it. And it was a beautiful thing, but it's a rare thing for us. They always want to bob us down in lawyers and
Well, they were more concerned with back lot rent than getting this thing off our books and turning it from a zombie home into and I spoke to the gentleman today that took the home. He's already got everything's lined up. He started to work on it. He's looking at $40,000 to put this home the way he wants it. And these guys don't want to hand it over to him.
Yep.
Because they don't have the paperwork. He secured the paperwork for us.
Yep.
Well, congratulations on getting AJ in there.
Half of the guy's debt from when he abandoned it.
So that was pretty cool.
I mean,
I was super proud of us, Mike. I walked out of there feeling like $1 million. It was like, man, we got this done. And again, most of the credit goes to you, but I think me being there as your backup was really helpful.
Yes.
Okay, so
I think the two of us together are maybe intimidating enough that we got it done.
So kudos to you.
That's what we're doing.
Kudos to Mike and Evie, you guys. That was very cool.
I
We got him in.
proud of us. And I think now they see that it can be done.
Yeah.
And now we can go to them and say, look, let's try this with these other homes. Forget about getting fixed up. Let's just find people who want to fix them up and get them in here.
Now we've discovered a method. So it's 7 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock and we are at the conclusion of this workshop. Does anybody have any, well, Angela says, thanks for an informative session. Nice interacting with you all. And thank you all. And I can get you all that stuff. I'm going to put the ball in your court. If you want them, look in the folder. If you want anything, reach out to me and I will get you copies of anything you want.
Okay, Mike, can you give me a call after this meeting?
Yes, I certainly can. Thank you, John.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
you.
everybody.
Oh, everybody,
Good
Bye.
bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.